lot of people here. Thank you to those who I haven't met yet. Always welcome to join our club. But do I have any Culver City Democrats United members here tonight? No, I don't want hands. Do I have any members here tonight? There we go. And I want to say we are very lucky, and I'm very grateful to have our moderator here tonight, Ms. Tamara Urica Johnson, an award-winning journalist and author. Ms. Urica Johnson has worked as a producer in several newsrooms across the country, including KTLA here in Los Angeles, and the Emmy-winning team at Good Morning America in New York City. She has contributed to the LA Times, NBC, and USA Today. Ms. Urica Johnson holds a master's degree from Columbia University's Graduate School of Journalism and is an avid volunteer in our Culver City community. She has 3 children who will be attending school in the Culver City Unified School District this fall. I look forward to having our little ones play together, but I will give it to you now and say thank you again for being here to host us.
Culver City Democrats United for inviting me here tonight and all 6 of our candidates. So grateful to have all of you here. Wanted to tell you a little bit about this forum that we have. This is the first in-person forum that this group has had, so thank you all here for being here for this. The Culver City Democrats United requested that this forum run as a session where we can hear each of you flesh out your ideas a little bit further on those things that are important to you and those issues that are important to the voters here. So I have a handful of prepared questions. For those of you in the audience, they have been seated at random. Each of you will receive 2 minutes to respond to each of the questions that I have. We will rotate. Our very first question we will begin with Mayor McMillan, and then we'll proceed to the left and the honorable. After that, we will rotate those questions. So Mayor McMillan will answer the first question, and then we'll move on to Ms. Smotsky-Seal. After each of you have answered those 2 minutes, we'll then do something a little unusual here. We're going to open it up and say, would anyone like to respond for 20 seconds on that? We'll give a little bit more information, and each of you will be able to do that. We'll make sure that you each get 20 seconds, and you'll have the time out for that, hopefully. We're hoping that our timer works here, and if not, I will be your timer, and we'll keep it on time.
If not, all our candidates can count 20 seconds.
Sure.
It'll be like the kids do on the playground when they're trying to get the swings, counting someone else down. So, my best of luck to all of you, and thank you again for being here tonight. So before we jump into those prepared questions, I wanted to begin with an introduction, and I was asked that we not have prepared comments for your introductory comments. So in lieu of that, I have an introductory question for each of you. Like I said, we'll begin with Mayor Warren with this. And as a way of introducing yourself, this is what I'd love to hear. Again, 2 minutes for each of you with this. I'd like to hear 3 issues that mean the most to you right now, and why you are the candidate who is most suited to address these issues as a member of Culver City's City Council. Mayor Warren, we begin with you, and we have 2 minutes beginning.
Thank you so much. Good evening to everyone in the space. Thank you to the Culver City Democrats United for hosting this space, and just happy to be in the room.
Who's working? I'll restart that.
Yeah.
Thank you for bearing with us with this. So we do have new mics. I know everyone can hear you in here, but we are also streaming, and so the microphones are important for people who are going to plug in to listen to this later. In case you want to go back and listen to this later, you'll be able to hear everyone's comments a little bit better as well. And this will be posted on our YouTube channel tomorrow.
Yeah, let's start from the beginning, and I think everyone can hear.
Yes.
Thanks.
Good evening to everyone in this space. Thank you to the Culver City Democrats United for hosting this space, and for Culver Theater for
she, her pronouns. I'm the youngest serving council member, only woman on the council, and the first woman of color and Black woman to serve Culver City as mayor. In terms of the three things that are most important to me right now in the community is, of course, housing and homelessness. I serve on the LASA board for our second supervisorial district. Of course, supporting our community members. I've been an advocate for anti-pain and supporting young folks and as well as our older adults. And lastly, of course, ensuring that we have a thriving small business community and ensuring that we are doing all that we can to support our businesses and ensuring that our corporate neighbors are good partners. So I've done a host of things. I've only been mayor for a year, but I've done a lot to ensure that those things are at the forefront, from putting things on the agenda to just, in my personal capacity, hosting things at Small Business Monthly, and, just trying to be a good partner in all the things that essentially support solving problems in our community. So I look forward to this time tonight. I look forward to folks learning more and this interesting platform that we'll be having to have this discussion this evening. So again, thank you for your time and this opportunity to be with you all this evening, and excited for the conversation.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Wisniewski-Dale.
Hi, thank you. Hi, I'm so happy to be here, and I want to thank Culver City Democrats United for hosting this forum in the beautiful Kirk Douglas Theater, where I have produced a play here actually in 2010. It's a beautiful venue, and my kids and I have danced and frolicked in this room during rehearsals, so it feels like a coming home. So now you know that I'm a theater producer and an arts worker. I've lived in Culver City for 24 years, and in my time, there are a lot of places that I've been and people that I've connected with all throughout the city, in the schools and in the parks, and in the city itself, and specifically as a cultural affairs commissioner for the last 8 years. So the reason I'm telling you all this is because that is what connects me to Culver City and what my passions are, boy, isn't it hard to, when you think of how beautiful this community is, to pick just 3 things that you care about. So I mentioned that I am an arts worker and a cultural affairs commissioner. So something that's really important to me is compassionate collaboration. And we do this in the arts, we do this in the creative economy as well. The creative economy is one of the biggest drivers in our city, so I am very concerned about our creative arts workers and our small businesses, as a small business owner myself. So that's important to me. And also connecting hearts and minds through conversation. There are a lot of people in this city who feel like their voices are not being heard from everywhere, from all 5 miles. I don't know how many quarters that is, so I'm not going to make that up. But I really feel like something that's important to me is making sure that people know that people in government care and listen. And the final thing is housing and homelessness. I have a lot to say about that, but I'm sure we'll get to it.
Thank you so much. Mr. Fish, 3 issues that are most important to you and why you're a great candidate for them.
Yes, thank you so much for moderating. Thank you, CCDU, and thank you so much for Kirk Douglas Theater. My name is Brian. You can call me Bubba. And I'm running to become your next council member, and I would love to earn your support today. I am a transportation deputy with LA County Board of Supervisors. I'm a civil servant. I'm an advocate ever since I moved to Culver City here. I'm a lifelong Democrat and a renter. And my husband and I moved 3 blocks away from this theater 10 years ago, and we immediately fell in love with Culver City. For its diversity, for the parks, the amenities, obviously our downtown businesses, and I immediately got involved here. I was on the advisory committee on housing and homelessness, and I co-created Culver City Pride Ride and Rally, which was just a couple weeks ago, and thank you to the Downtown Business Association too for supporting that. I co-created that with our mayor and Councilmember Freddie Puza, who's here. So it's great to see so many familiar faces. To answer the question, I'm really running to help foster the diverse community that we all, I think, have grown to love about Culver City, and to make sure that we can maintain the diversity here. And for me, that is what's really important. To do that is, creating housing for all incomes, making sure that we're not just protecting our tenants, but making sure that we're increasing housing capacity, because obviously we're in a huge housing crisis, making sure we're building more permanent supportive housing for our unhoused neighbors, so we're not just stopping the flow into homelessness, but actually taking people off the streets. And then, of course, safe streets and expanding our transit network. I'm a public policy professional for transportation. I devoted my career to making sure we can get around easily, efficiently, safely, and so I'm really motivated to do that. And then finally, public safety through services, making sure that preventative care leads the way, that we can make sure that we are spending our resources, our finite resources, in the most powerful and productive way to keep our community safe. Thank you so much.
Mr. Vera, what issues are important to you?
Thank you so much, and thanks for everybody who really made this possible. Albert Vera, current council member, former mayor, lifelong resident of Culver City, small business owner. The issues I think that are most important to me, they're all sort of interlaced. There's the homelessness and housing issue. When I first became mayor, I reached out right away with Mayor Bass. We locked arms and sort of formulated the task moving forward, and what that did was we held a meeting, declared an emergency around homelessness, and that gave our city manager sort of a little more wiggle room in terms of creating or fast-tracking a lot of the projects that we have online today. Public safety, I think, small businesses and public works all are sort of interconnected. I want to make sure that public safety has the tools, and whether it's police department, fire department, our unarmed response, our mental evaluation team, they have all the tools needed and necessary to do the job well and safely. Public works, I think for the most part, people want to walk outside of the house, want to make sure that the street lights are on, garbage is picked up, and the sidewalks are maintained, streets are clean. And that folds into the small businesses. As a small business owner, I know the value of public safety and the value of making my customers feel safe as well as my employees. So it's all sort of interconnected. I know we've made great strides with council on all of these issues. And then lastly is really about compromising. I listen to the community, and as it pertains to transportation and move, we started this project. I want to see it through. I want to make sure that we are listening to the community. We do revamp it and create sort of a compromise, if you will. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Renteria.
Hello. Thank you everyone for being here, and thanks to CCDU for hosting this event. I'm Denise Renteria, and I'm running to be your next city council member. The three issues that are important to me and residents of the city at the moment are safety, and that's everything from making sure our sidewalks are functioning, not cracked, and everything from sidewalks all the way to policing, and making sure that our police respond when we call and that they're functioning to their best ability, that all our first responders are taken care of so they can take care of us, because that is what they do. Transportation is also a big issue. A lot of people want to talk about the MOVE project, but transportation is also making sure that people are able to get where they need to go, however they choose to get there, and I want to make sure that's possible for everyone. Walking, biking, whatever you choose to do, drive all 4 cars, whatever. Like, you just need to get where you're going. Let's make sure it's possible. Let's make sure it's easy and accessible. And then homelessness is another big issue that comes up pretty often. And I feel like all of these issues, I would be best suited for this because I'm decisive, I'm pragmatic, and I am willing to collaborate to come to a great answer, and to an answer that would fit the majority of the community, and work in small details and all those things in order to solve the problems, which is what I do on a constant basis. Is I'm a problem solver, so I'm here to do that for the city.
Thank you so much. Ms. Barbara.
Thank you very much, everyone, for being here, and thank you for having us, Culver City Democrats United, to the facilities, and everyone that really took time out of front row that are supporting me through this endeavor. My name is Nancy Barba. I use she, her pronouns. My grandparents were braceros, which are migrant workers that traveled to the United States.
And that works.
Continue?
Yeah.
Okay. That traveled to the United States looking for work. And they did everything from picking cotton to oranges. And they raised my aunts and uncles, and my mom was a single mom, and I grew up in South Central LA. I was bused from South Central LA to Sherman Oaks as part of LAUSD's desegregation. And all of that informs my lived experiences and my lens of equity. And that brings me to the three most important issues in our community is housing. I think almost everyone you talk about is going to say housing, whether it's housing or homelessness. Those are critical issues in our city, in our region, in our state, and in our nation. I would say basically making sure that our economy is resilient, and not just our local businesses, absolutely. Our small, medium, all of our businesses need to be resilient because that is how we're going to have a resilient well-behaving, acting economy, right? We rely on those businesses for revenue, and we also, our residents rely on that. My time is up.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our candidates for your introductions. Now is the time when you can applaud. And I say that because it would be great if we could hold our applause for the rest of the time till the end so that we don't steal any time from our candidates here who've been so generous to come to you here tonight. Another thing to do is, if you haven't done so already, please mute your phones. So now we're moving into the question portion of this, and thank you for sharing your issues. We will dive into more about your thoughts on each of those issues as we talk about these. And for the first ones, this person will be answered first by Ms. Wisnowski-Stalin, and then after that we'll move over to Mr. Fish. So the question is as follows. You'll have 2 minutes for this. Do you consider homelessness an emergency in Culver City? And what ideas do you have regarding those unhoused in Culver City?
First of all, I want to thank you for pronouncing my name correctly. Janine Wisnowski-Stalin, which I joke is spelled exactly the way it sounds. Housing and homelessness is an emergency, and it's a humanitarian crisis. That's how I think about it, and that's exactly what it is. As Council Member, former Mayor Albert Vera mentioned, right after LA Mayor Karen Bass was elected, she immediately declared an emergency because it is an emergency, and that allowed her to do all kinds of things to try to solve homelessness in Los Angeles. And then next happened was Culver City declared a state of emergency to try to immediately tackle what's very important here in front of us. Because if you remember, up until a couple months ago even, we had the humanitarian crisis right before our eyes with people sleeping on the streets. And what we were able to do is help those very unfortunate neighbors get housed. So I think that right now Culver City is doing all the right things. We have 6 places where the homeless neighbors can be housed. We have our wellness village. We have permanent supportive housing and temporary supportive housing. We have 2 motels where people who need to have an emergency can be housed, and we have Upward Bound. That is great. However, it's not sustainable, unfortunately, and it's costing us a lot of money. And we can't, as a city, sustain this, unfortunately, because we're doing the right thing, but we can't financially afford it. So what do we need to do? We need to, and I'm going to use the word demand, because this is a regional, state, and national issue, that we partner more with Los Angeles County, the City of LA, and the State of California, and also nationally to figure out how we can be financially, helped and do this as a nation.
Thank you. Mr. Fish.
Yeah, thank you for this super important question. I don't think there's anyone on this tables or in the audience today who doesn't see the dire straits of folks who are on our streets and thinks that's a tenable situation that should continue. I think the question is, what do you do with that energy? What do you do with that that understanding that this is a crisis? For me, I served on the Housing and Homelessness Committee for 2 years. I was very supportive of the Project Home Key sites, the 2 motels that we renovated, totaling now 73 families who are living there, and as well as the Safe Camping or Wellness Village, 20 individuals are living there as well. Just a couple years ago, we had over 200 folks who were unsheltered. Now it's down to 115. That's huge progress, and it's something we should all be celebrating because it really is a direct result of the services that we've brought online, right? With Project Home Key, and even with the motel leasing that we're doing at the Roadway and other motels here. So the issue is, how do we scale that up, but also how do we stop the flow into homelessness? And this is where I think some of the candidates have contrasting ideas. For me, homelessness is not a set population, right? It's a flow of people who, as incomes stay stagnant and housing costs continue to go up, we see people falling into homelessness in cities across the country, especially here in California. So that's where tenant protections really come into play, and smart tenant protections. We can talk about those, I'm sure, later in the evening. But that's also where housing production comes into play, and making sure that we have enough housing here in Culver City to accommodate families of all kinds, and to make sure that we have affordability here in Culver City, and to be applying for grants that can help us achieve that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Vera.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I consider homelessness an emergency. When I became mayor in December, called for an emergency meeting to declare a state of emergency in Culver City. That vote passed 3-2. And what that did is it allowed our city manager to sort of fast track, like I said, a lot of the projects. For an example, our wellness village, virtually overnight, it came into existence. We did a site walkthrough, and Vice Mayor O'Brien had noticed that it's a great area, but there's too much sun. There was no shaded area. Got a hold of our city manager and said, hey, wouldn't it be nice to put a shaded pergola or this nice structure? Within 3 days, that structure was up. That couldn't have happened any other way. It's fast-track production, fast-track construction. It did so much. And by creating the state of emergency, it really allowed us to really realize that there's multiple levels of folks who are suffering from homelessness. And it's not just because they fell out of, they lost their home due to rent or whatnot. There's various issues. Those are the low-hanging fruits that we sort of attract right away and get them into housing. It's the low-hanging fruit that is really the easiest portion of it. So those folks, individuals that are suffering from mental health illnesses or substance abuse, we get those folks off the street and put them into either our wellness village or the permanent supportive or the interim housing. We get them the services that they need. It's wraparound services, providing the care that needs, as opposed to leaving them on the street. I think that's inhumane, and if we had not done what we did, and also creating an anti-camping ordinance where it gave us a little more leeway in terms of getting these individuals off the street and into some sort of housing. Some of my colleagues argue that that's not housing, that it's,
Thank you, Mr. Vera.
okay, thank you.
Ms. Renteria.
I definitely think
homelessness is an emergency, and being able to fast track all of those services and providing all of that and getting people indoors is pretty important. Letting people be on the street is just awful to watch, and I want to make sure people are helped in the best way possible. So getting people into the safe camping site and the hotels is very important. I also want to get the state to notice everything that we are doing and everything that we have made possible, but to get them to help us. So applying for grants and getting them to pay attention that we're doing everything that we can, but it's not going to be sustainable for us to keep that up. So the state also needs to start helping out and making sure that they're seeing what we do, they're noticing that we're making strides and doing as much as we can. They need to start stepping up and helping us.
Thank you. Ms. Barba?
Yes, it's absolutely an emergency, and I think the number one way to solve homelessness is with housing. So one major difference between Culver City and the city of LA is that LA did not just do everything that we're doing, which is fantastic, but they also addressed land use and expedited a bunch of housing projects. Those projects have resulted in thousands of housing units being permitted and planned and site plan reviewed and approved. And that is a humongous difference between our city and the city of LA, for contrast. Additionally, I don't think that criminalizing homelessness, which is, by the way, kind of criminalizing poverty, because the majority of people fall into homelessness because most people in the United States don't have savings. They get sick, they lose a job, their child gets sick, they have to be hospitalized, and it can happen to any one of us. And I don't understand why we would have to criminalize homelessness to address the needs of the unhoused community. I also think we've done a lot, but I think we can do a lot more. And I am not necessarily saying just provide more services. Yes, we can do that, but also we can do a lot to create opportunities for housing. Why do housing projects take longer to go through the process in Culver City than in LA? And I can tell you that we have contrasts, because I've served on the Planning Commission, where projects that have, let's say, 100 housing units, they go through the LA process and they're still waiting on our approvals. So there's a side-by-side comparison in something that wouldn't necessarily cost us millions, right? We can facilitate housing creation in our city. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think this is the time when any of you can make 20 more seconds. Oh, forgive me, Mayor.
Thanks. All right. Good on the mic. Thanks for the question. I definitely consider housing and homelessness, or the lack of housing that we're experiencing, a definite emergency. I served on the Housing and Homelessness Subcommittee since I started on the council. I guess assignments were made in 2021 and served it until it was dissolved, I think earlier this year. That committee was dissolved, that subcommittee was dissolved. One of the things that I just want to lift up in this conversation as we think about housing and homelessness and the critical importance of it is we know in LA County in particular that our seniors are the group, our older adults are the group that are fastest growing and falling into homelessness. For the first time, LA and LA County are showing a decrease, or it's not, a decrease in the folks experiencing homelessness, which is great. But at the same time, so much more work needs to be done. I do also want to lift up from the LASA data from our SPA 5 showed that even though there was a decrease in homelessness, there was an increase in adjacent SPA 6, which indicates that a lot of the folks experiencing homelessness were likely pushed into a neighboring city, which means that we've made it uncomfortable to be homeless here, so the issue has not been solved, but it's been pushed into another area, which I'm not sure is something to really be proud of. One of the things that I think we could do is remove the 1-year wait that we currently have as a preference in our policy in terms of who gets access to the programs that we have. Our motel leasing, our Project Home Key, which was supposed to be online in 2022, but due to construction delays, came online in 2023. And we look forward to the opening of safe parking, grateful also for safe camping, which I continually advocated for in 2021 and 2022. As well well, we have to streamline our housing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, now we can try and do our 20-second rebuttal or further comments on maybe what other people have said. Is there anyone who would like to do that? Mr. Vera, we'll start with you.
Thank you. The word criminalization of homelessness comes up, and it's such a travesty to even use that word. We have a housing department, Tebas, Barnes, and Aramis, that are amazing individuals, and we lead with a continuum of care. We have never, ever arrested somebody for being unhoused or homeless. We lead with care. We get them into housing, and you talk about, the housing stock. Yeah, great, we all need a house, but would we leave them on the street for the next 6-7 years until that housing is created?
Thank you, Mr. Vera. Anyone else? Yes, Mrs. Knox.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that you mentioned that not a single person has been arrested for being unhoused, because that's absolutely true. Nobody has been arrested for not having a home in Culver City. Thank goodness, because that's not who we are. Secondly, I am also very concerned about our senior population, and I'm concerned that we have potential to lose naturally occurring affordable housing, which is where a lot of our low-income senior residents live. And if you go to Overland Boulevard, you see the big apartment buildings. Those used to be small, affordable buildings. We don't want that to happen here.
Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to uplift the criminalization word is being used because the ordinance that was written specifically says it's illegal to camp in all public areas of the city, regardless of if the city has any housing services available. So in practice, what ends up happening, like in the October sweep that was directed, was Culver City was able to push those folks onto the LA side of the street and was able to put those into the 4118 program, which if you're familiar with LA City, it essentially resulted in less than 0.01% of people in that entire operation getting permanent housing. So that's sort of how those that ordinance was leveraged in Culver City.
No, but you will get extra time, so maybe in your other times you can sneak it in there. Would anyone else? And we are sneaking with 30 seconds instead of 20 because that's how our timer is working right now. So we'll give you 30 instead of 20. You're lucky now. Anyone else? Okay, let's move on to our next topic. And some of you have already touched on this a little bit. It follows up further with housing. What sort of zoning changes would you support, if any? And what do you see as a long-term impact on Culver City residents? And for this question, we're going to start with Mr. Fish.
Thank you. Yeah, zoning is a huge issue when it comes to creating housing capacity. Over 55% of our currently zoned residential land is reserved for single-family zoning, and this is something that obviously is a really hot topic, and I understand people have really strong responses to it, and I completely understand. If we're going to create more housing capacity, we've already made a lot of progress, right? The state has stepped in and said you need to allow ADUs. SB 9 allowed lot splits. Those were very controversial at the time. I was disappointed when this council decided to change the definition of infill housing, which would have allowed more housing capacity in the bulk of our city, and decided to sort of remove a huge amount of that infill housing, which is housing near transit and housing near jobs. I think nobody's suggesting that every neighborhood needs to look like Fox Hills, our most diverse and our most dense neighborhood. But I think where I'm coming from, and I think what a lot of housing advocates are coming from, is saying, hey, we all have a responsibility, we all have a mutual shared responsibility to contribute housing to our communities if we're going to solve this housing deficit. And I'm actually really encouraged by the recent zoning code, proposed zoning code amendments. I don't think it does that. It doesn't provide housing in all, in all neighborhoods. It doesn't do that. But what I am encouraged about it is it meets our RENA numbers, and it creates a lot more mixed-use neighborhoods across the city. I'm encouraged by that. I hope we can eventually become a pro-housing city designated by the HCD, the State Department of Housing. And that would allow us to be first in line for a lot of very important grant opportunities. So I'm hoping we can all be a part of the solution, and I think there's something really wonderful about that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Guerrero?
Thank you. it is about responsibility and it's about balance. And there's really a lot of different angles we need to look at, from the infrastructure needed to support many more units, to what we really already have online, and to what our arena numbers are. You know, in the pipeline already we have 2,981 units in the pipeline. Out of those 2,981 units, approximately 541 are affordable. The 2,440 are market rate. Since 2021, we've created 251 ADUs. So I think we're well on our path to meet our arena numbers, and then we have some reserve there, some sort of wiggle room. You know, the state density bonuses have kicked in, and it's incumbent upon the city to work with developers and builders to try to create that much needed affordable housing that we need. And even affordable, it's what we need to realize is that somebody's going to pay for it. You have an affordable unit that goes online, it's still going to cost $1 million to build an affordable unit. And even with density bonuses, you have a developer coming in, and we have to face it, they're there for profit. The city doesn't build, developers build. They're there for profit. So you have an affordable unit, and these numbers are just sort of made up, that's gone to market that's affordable for $800. Well, the market rate now units are going to have to bear the load of the affordable unit. I think it'd be great if the state would step in and subsidize these affordable units. Maybe the market rate units will be lower. But I think in terms of density, we need to be careful where and what we do. There's areas in the city where it makes sense, and there's other areas that don't. We need to have a balanced approach moving forward. I think what we have right now in terms of arena numbers and the stock that we have in the pipeline is a great job.
Thank you, Councilman Rubio. Ms. Renteria?
I believe that we can change some of the zoning to include housing along a lot of our commercial corridors. That way everything's along transit and main roads so that it's easy and accessible for people to get to. That's where I believe we can make a major difference, because a lot of our commercial is one story, and just adding units right above that could be beneficial and really hit our arena numbers and make sure we get to those.
Thank you. Ms. Barba?
I think there's lots we can do. So one, I'll share that the land use element was recently updated, and it does allow residential construction everywhere in Culver City, which is fantastic, because we can create that vision of mixed use, thriving neighborhoods, and what I really advocate for is that 15-minute city. A city that is by multiple types of mobility, whether it's walking, biking, driving, all of the things that you can get to most places that you need to in your everyday life within 15 minutes. And that does require that very vibrant and diverse type of mixed use, where you have jobs, and you have your restaurants, and you have your necessities like your grocery shop and your church and your theater, all relatively close. And I think I live that dream. I'm very lucky that I have that, and I want that for all of us. And I think I also want that, I know, I want that for the person that makes my coffee and serves me my dinner if I go out to a restaurant. We should all want that. And how do we get that? We get that through increasing density. That is how we get more homes. And the one place that we all agreed that we could have more density is along the corridors. So let's do that there. Right now, with the land use element and the units per acre, we cannot build some of the existing housing along Washington and Culver. So know that, yes, we have raised that infill and the units per acre, but not enough. Not enough to make a difference. We need to take the bold steps like adopting SB 10, which allows up to 10 units along major corridors. You know, you can dedicate Washington in the Arts District to doing that. There's a lot of organizations like Livable Communities Initiatives that would be happy to support the city with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor McMillan. Thank you for the question. As it pertains to zoning, I think about housing, I just think about neighbors. I'm a single mom. I've experienced housing insecurity myself. It's not great. And it would be wonderful if our city, right now, a lot of the housing that's coming in the pipeline, a lot of it is coming in my neighborhood in Fox Hills, which we're the most diverse, dense neighborhood. I love it. It's very walkable. It's really enjoyable. We could use some more safe, complete streets in Fox Hills as the cars are traveling very fast, but that's another conversation. But right now, the way it looks is most of the housing burden is going to be shouldered by a very diverse community, which is not very rich in resources, which is also a policy choice. So I would really love for us to revisit the infill that was removed. I believe that was last year. The infill was removed so that we all can share in loving the diversity and having more neighbors and having teachers and law enforcement and service workers be a part of our community. Because our average rent is about $3,000 in Culver City right now. Many people couldn't afford to buy their homes if they had to today, if it was put on the market. That's the kind of Culver City that we have today, and I think it could be different if we made different choices to allow to have more neighbors. I think that's a great thing. I think we can get there. And looking at our zoning and being collaborative and making sure we're doing it equitably, I think is the path there. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Hi, the question was about zoning.
Yes.
It's been a while since I heard
I'll
the
repeat the question. What sort of zoning changes do you support, if any? What do you see as the long-term impact for Culver City residents?
Okay, thank you. The zoning question has been something that's been fraught in this city for a couple of years now, actually up and down the state, and actually up and down the state in individual cities, because you cannot have the same zoning in every city or in across the city applying to everyone. For instance, there are folks who live up in the hills who cannot have infill or apartment buildings up there because our police and fire have said if there's an emergency, those folks are going to be in danger. So we have to look at zoning very compassionately, which means that we have to pay attention to what our neighbors are saying because they know their neighborhood the best. Right now in our general plan update, we have changed the zoning. We have allowed for all commercial buildings to have mixed use, which means that all of our commercial buildings will now be able to have a housing component. And I think this is great because we have a lot of opportunity to create more housing on the corridors and in commercial zoning, places that might be surprising. I can think of some empty big box stores that would be a perfect place to have beautiful housing. I'm not going to name them by name because I am being taped. But I think we can do that. I also think that I agree that there are some neighborhoods that have been unduly affected by our zoning, and I've been looking at the housing element, and I've noticed comments from folks, particularly in the Fox Hills neighborhood. And remember when earlier I mentioned that people don't feel listened to? Those folks often are not listened to regarding housing. So we do need to take the burden off them and do need to share some of the burden. And that's where building in the commercial areas come up. I can go on forever. I won't.
Thank you so much to all of you for your thoughts and ideas. Would anyone like 30 seconds for a rebuttal or further comments? Okay, with that, we'll move forward to our next topic, and this one will begin with Councilmember Vera. This next topic is going to talk about the police, and in particular, this group was interested in knowing about your thoughts on cutting the police budget. Does the police budget need to be cut? If so, by how much? And what other thoughts do you have about safety in our city?
No, I don't believe the police budget should be cut or needs to be cut. I think the police department in any city is sort of the bedrock, the foundation of the city. A good, solid, responsive police department is essential and vital to communities. I think we have an extremely transparent and responsive and young police department who sort of is on the cusp of constantly training and making themselves better. We have a police chief in my opinion, is extremely capable of performing the duties. He comes with a list of wants. It's up to council to decide whether those wants are necessary or not, but the operational daily run of the police department should not be cut. That's, I think, up to the police chief as well as our city manager to deem what's important and good for the community. Look, I think when you call up the police and they're there, response time within 3 minutes, regardless of what the call might be, it might be even 5 minutes at times, but for emergency calls, it's 2 to 3 minutes. I don't know that any other city you can have that sort of response time. There's always bad actors. I think with the technology that we have now, whether it be body-worn cameras or the in-vehicle cameras, I think we're able to weed out those bad actors, get rid of them right away. I don't think any organization should have any organization in the city, whether it's police, fire, or whatnot, should not have to deal with bad actors. I think our police department is doing a great job, and to reiterate, no, I do not think that we need to cut our budget.
Thank you. Ms. Renteria?
No, we don't need it.
Budget. We need to make sure that our police are fully staffed and that they have what they need to do their job and make it efficient. I also think coming into this with an adverse attitude towards the police benefits absolutely no one. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Barba?
I support first responders that are not just police and also fire department, but that can deal with crises. So mobile crisis team is a great step in the direction of where we need a lot more resources in our city and in our region, truly. With growing needs, whether it be unhoused populations or whether it be variety of needs in our community, I think it's important that we don't see everything through a hammer if we need a screwdriver. And I think there's a lot of instances that people say, let's call the police. It is not always the first thing we should be doing, right? People need care. And in that regard, I think it's important that we think about how we can reimagine public safety to go beyond policing. Public safety should not be limited to purely policing. And I think there is a way that might even be more cost effective if we dedicate more funds to mobile crisis teams and other 24/7 available services that would help those that are experiencing a crisis, then investing more in police, and you can still have your police respond rate of 2 to 3 minutes. Because you can have both if we reimagine what public safety is. Who keeps us safe? It is my neighbor that tells me if I left my garage door open. It is my community. And we need to envision public safety beyond police. Public safety is safe streets where people can walk and not be killed, like it's happened in Fox Hills and other places in our community. It is very important that we evolve the public safety conversation. We had those discussions under the general plan update, but we chose not to move those ideas forward. The police doesn't need to, do we all think the police needs to collect the coins from our meters? Perhaps not.
Thank you, Ms. Barba. Mayor McLaurin?
Does the police budget?
I got it, thanks. I take good notes. Thank you. I think what's helpful in this question is just to be reminded that at least in my tenure on the council, there's never been any decrease in the police budget. There's never been any decrease in staffing. In fact, the police budget has never been higher. It's my understanding that they are at full capacity. And what I have done through my campaign for City Council in 2020, and what I hope to continue to do from the dais and hopefully in this space, is to challenge how folks think about, especially as a daughter of a police detective, to challenge how we think about safety and how we might do it differently. I know that for a lot of folks, it's very easy to get defensive and to claim how I feel about certain things because I ask questions. One of the things that I think we could do, and candidate Barbara mentioned this, but looking back at the public safety general plan element, over 200 community members and neighbors participated in that process, and it was thrown out. There's been no forward movement on that work. And I know this group cares deeply about surveys, so it would be good to take a peek at that, right? And see what our neighbors and folks on the tax said about how we might deal with public safety and how we might move forward. I know that doing new things might feel, a little uncomfortable, but again, we always have to think about who is being censored, and just because we're doing something one way right now, for example, I know the fireworks has just been brought up. It was done by the Exchange Club for a really long time. Downtown Business Association just picked it up and did a great job. People were skeptical, but you never know until you give it a shot. I think how folks experience safety in our community is worth trying something new, and I hope that folks will be open to engaging that conversation. While we have the highest police budget ever, so they're safe, y'all, don't worry.
Hi, thank you for the question. I do not think that our police salaries should be cut. They can't be cut because we are tied to, I don't know if people know, you all know this actually because I know how educated everyone in this room is. Our police budget, our police salaries are tied in by law since 1954, I believe, to the police budget and salaries of the city of Los Angeles. So we cannot cut their salaries. And currently, our police budget is on level with our surrounding cities. So we're not higher than any of the other cities. Thinking back to when I moved to Culver City, and I'm sure many of you, the ones who weren't born here, moved to Culver City, what were you attracted to? You were attracted to the beautiful neighborhoods, you were attracted to the community feel, you were attracted to our wonderful schools, and you heard, and it was true, that we have incredible police response times. We have, and we demand, we expect a level of service and accountability and transparency from our police department. And I know that not everyone has the same experiences, and there are some folks who do feel unsafe. But for the most part, our police department is delivering and becoming a more modern, progressive police department under the current police chief, who, by the way, was the detective on the case when we had a pedophile looking through the windows of my house years ago. So they get 40,000 calls a year. That's about one call per Culver City resident. We have 40,000 people who live here during the day, who put their heads down at night, and 300,000 people who come here during the day. That is a big responsibility. And they are, right now, because of all the wonderful laws that I support that have been passed down by the state of California, they are bound to transparency laws that they have to abide by. I support them, and that is why we can't decrease their budget, because they have to abide by those. Thank you.
Mr. Fish, does the police budget need to be cut? If so, by how much? And what are your other thoughts on safety in the city?
Thank you. Yeah, it's a hugely important topic. I was trying to get a friend housing services, and it was after business hours, and I called the mobile crisis team, and of course it's an amazing amenity, but it's not available outside of business hours. These are the types of budgetary questions that we have to face as a community, right? We're facing an $18 million deficit in our general fund. That's a little less than 10% of our total general fund. So I don't believe that any department should have impunity over our city budget. I don't believe any department should never hear the word, no, that's not something we can do. We don't treat the Parks Department that way. They had requests that we didn't get to in this cycle. And since I've lived in Culver City, the police budget has increased significantly and disproportionately to other departments. It's gone from $35 or $33 million 10 years ago to $57 million part of the general fund. And now it takes up 33% of the general fund. So to me, I think we should be looking at everything we can do to create a more holistic vision. That is why I was so supportive of and excited by the public safety element that had comments from over 2,000 people. And I was disappointed that it got thrown out. I think it outlined a vision of a modern, holistic view of public safety. These are issues that I work on in my job as a transportation deputy for the chair of the Metro Board. You know, there are a lot of different things that create safety. Whether a subway station has cell service, where there is lighting, where there is social workers and ambassadors. We don't have an ambassador program. West Hollywood does, Santa Monica does. Our mental health crisis team, again, only available 9 to 5. There's so many things we could do that would be really, really good uses of our funding if we simply have the courage and the fortitude to say, let's try these things. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any 30-second rebuttals that we would like to have? Mr. Greer, we'll begin with you.
Thank you. They talk about the study being thrown out. What they fail to mention is that CPSM, I believe, or Center for Police Science and Management, conducted a study as well, and the police department, I think, to date has implemented over 85% of their recommendations. And also in terms of the salary, and good portion of that is linked to the salary ordinance, where we're mandated by an ordinance to stay in suit with LAPD and LA Sheriff's Department, as well as a good chunk of the budget is for the
Thank you.
pension, and thank you.
Yes, Ms. Barber.
It's not a rebuttal, but I would like to say that we also need to be honest with ourselves. I've been attending the RIPA kind of report presentations, which is the racial information that they collect every time they stop. They hired someone that cut and spliced the data in many, many ways, but no matter how you splice it, Black and brown people are the #1 criminalized outsize of how they're represented, whether you do daytime, nighttime, no matter how you splice, our police are targeting Black and brown people.
Thank you.
Hey,
We're waiting for commentary from our candidates.
hey, please,
Anyone
please,
else make any
please.
Everyone, please be respectful. We're not talking until the very end. We do an applause at the end of every question, nothing else.
Thank you. I would like to hear from our candidates if they have further commentary.
I just want to lift up how difficult it is sometimes to be in spaces with neighbors who have differing views when folks share a lived experience. I know that when I decided to move to Culver City, folks of color asked me if I was sure because of their stories and experiences with the police department. And I know that folks might not believe me or say that I'm making things up. I have no reason to do that. But I hope that two things can be true, and I hope that we can honor that folks show up in our community with different experiences, and I hope that we can move forward together honoring people's lived experience while honoring your own. Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't expect to respond, but the question was police budget, police salaries, which it wasn't. Oh no, my 30 seconds is going. Their salaries are negotiated with the union. So we have to think about that. These are union contracts. So you can't just cut negotiated budget and contract. I'm a union member here, so.
Mr. Renteria, do you want to say? Okay. Thank you so much. And again, I do ask that we save our commentary and our applause until later. We are here to hear our thoughts from the candidates they've prepared wonderfully well, and we appreciate your time for being here. Let's move on to our next question. This one will begin with Ms. Renteria. I'm sure you all expected me to ask about the MOVE project. Here it is. How do you feel about the MOVE project? What specific changes need to be made, if any? And are there any other transportation needs in the city?
I was very excited about the MOVE project. I said, let's try it. I thought it would be something interesting, it would be something different, and we can see how this pilot project works. And that's the thing, it's a pilot project. So if something needs to change, we should be able to change it. And if it's not working, then we need to find out and figure out how to make it work. And if we're hearing from a lot of businesses and people that live along the MOVE project that they're struggling, and that's either their businesses are struggling or getting in and out of their neighborhoods are struggling, then we need to find a solution for all of that. I painted the streets. I was there when we were doing that on Washington because I was excited to try something different. And I have walked, biked, and used the bus and the circulator. So I've done and driven through. So I've done every single version of the MOVE project. If I drive, it takes me 30 minutes to get to the farmer's market. It should not take me 30 minutes to get from Duquesne to Main Street. It never did before, so saying that it just takes 2 minutes more than whatever your travel time was before is completely false. It also, just crossing the street earlier to here, it seems to have also just created more unsafety for pedestrians. And that's concerning because there's a lot of pedestrians, and because people are stuck and frustrated, now they're trying to figure out how to go through faster or get out of intersections because now everyone's gridlocked in and no one is moving. Our MOVE project isn't moving, it's pretty still. So I think we need to be able to change things to get things going and make sure people are getting through our city efficiently.
Thank you. Ms. Barbara?
Thank you. Couldn't wait for this question. So I think this question really highlights, I really support data-driven decision-making. There was studies about how long it took. Data was collected before and after MOVE, and there's comparisons. And the data shows that yes, it takes you longer, but on average, about 2 minutes. And I think we also need to, there's actually videos out there of the traffic along downtown Culver. Before MOVE, way before MOVE, the traffic was very much at a standstill. There's just a lot of traffic, and it doesn't always originally in Culver City, right? A lot of it is just pass-through traffic. I recognize the importance of safety for provided by bike lanes and dedicated bus lanes. Both of these provide a service that helps more than most of us that typically travel in single occupancy cars, right? So if we're talking about a bus having a dedicated bus lane and there's 40 people, that in my mind is a good investment. Also, if we're talking about bikes, it means it benefits the car driver too, because that is one less car on the road. And I think it's really important to think about the changes that as a society we need to make, because climate change is real and we will need to adjust our ways of how we behave in our everyday life. Biking, walking, all of those things, and mass transit have to be something that socially we retrain in our heads. Why not start with children biking to school? Our daughter bikes to school every day. It really does shape kids when that is a known way of transporting themselves. Let's give that opportunity to more of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Moore.
Thanks for the question. I am still very proud of our Caltrans award-winning MOVE project. We'll see in a couple of weeks, I guess, what the judge will say about it. I don't think a ruling has come out yet, so we'll just put a pin in that. But at the end of the day, and I think I might be picking up some highlights from comments that were made, but we're in a climate crisis. This is not just an issue of moving around our community, which is absolutely important, but we have to think about how our individual decisions are leaving the world for our children and hopefully their children. There's a ton of data and studies talking about how emissions is warming the planet, and how can Culver City do our part? That's my question to this room. It's clear that probably for a lot of folks in this space, this MOVE project was not something that you really liked. But what do we like? What would you like to see? How do we get closer to make it so that our children can move carefully and safely in our community? Because what we have right now are older adults. I still think about my neighbor in Fox Hills who was killed in the crosswalk 2 years ago, right across from Fox Hills Park. I think about all the children who play AYSO in that park. And I think about how our climate is warmer today than it's ever been. We all have to do our part. And so I understand that many folks in this room probably weren't a huge fan of MOVE, but we gotta get to what folks do like and what you're willing to give up as we move to a world that is safer, breathable, for our children and our community. We love Culver City, so let's be invested in the sustainability and future of Culver City, which to me looks like more buses, it looks like more bikes, looks like if you have a disability of some sort, you're able to move freely and clearly through our community, and I think we can do that. I think we can care about each other enough. I think we can care about our grandchildren enough to build a Culver City that has space for us all. I think it's possible. I hope you'll join me in that.
Thank you. Ms. Wisniewski-Salem.
Yes, hi, thank you for the question. Move is the first thing that people ask me about when they hear that I'm running for council. What are you going to do about move? The reason is because it has caused our city a big disruption. It was supposed to be a pilot project, meaning that we were going to put it in the bus, bike lanes, and see what happened. And if things didn't work, we were going to change it until it worked. And what has happened is there's a lawsuit stopping the change that people have asked for. So if I agree, we're in a climate crisis. I mean, who am I to agree? There is actually a climate crisis happening. But we can't make any of the changes to move that we want to make because of the lawsuit. So moms who have to go through Culver City to pick up their kids in multiple locations, I'm a mom of 3, so I understand this plight. I'm sure there are many moms out there as well who understand this. Can't get through Culver City. Our businesses have told us, and we should believe them, that people are not frequenting their places of business because they can't get there. As a matter of fact, I got a text right before I came here. A woman said to me, "Good luck, Janine, tonight at the forum, but as I mentioned, I haven't gone downtown Culver City in 2 years because of move." And I know that that woman is not the only one. And we have to remember our gig workers. Not everyone who lives in Culver City works in Culver City. I talked to an environmentalist while I was cleaning up Iona Creek a couple weeks ago, and he said to me, "What's going on with move? I ride my bike, but I work for the entertainment industry. I'm a gaffer, and I can't get through Culver City. I have to leave way too early to get there because I don't live where I work, and I'm never going to because that's not my industry." So we need to fix move, and I'm hoping the lawsuit is rectified soon.
Mr. Fish?
Thank you. Yeah, no one has any opinions on this one, right? This is the number one issue that I hear. I've knocked thousands of doors, and this is what people talk to me about first. I took Move Culver City here. I took the bus. I live on this project. Traffic and mobility are obviously, what I've devoted my career to. But I also completely hear the complaints that folks have that, maybe they're stuck in traffic for a really long time. It's very frustrating, and I completely understand how frustrating that can be to not get, you're at the end of the day, you want to get home, or you want to go to the farmer's market. Ultimately, this project had goals, and the goals were to incentivize micromobility and to incentivize transit use. And on those goals, pretty inarguably successful, right? 68% increase in micromobility, 57% increase in cycling. That's from pre-COVID to post. 38% increase in bus ridership, a decrease in bus travel time, and these are not just Culver City buses and Culver City residents, right? I take the LADOT Commuter Express downtown, the Big Blue bus, the Metro, there's a Metro line that serves it, and this all goes from our E-line station to our downtown. We have the Olympics coming up, we got the Super Bowl, we got the World Cup. All of these things converge, and the whole region is moving towards, sustainable transportation. You're seeing Hollywood Boulevard is now a complete street. You're seeing Measure HLA in Los Angeles just won 66% of the vote for bike, bus, and pedestrian infrastructure. So everyone's moving in this direction. Where I'm coming from, I completely understand the frustrations. I actually think there's a lot of ways we can improve it. It is a pilot program, and it does need to change. I do not think, and if I could stand in front of you right now and say, yep, ripping out bike lanes and putting more car lanes will fix your problem, it'll get you to where you need to go, and we just open 3 major companies in downtown, I would, but unfortunately, that's not the case. But I do think we can make this project work for everyone. Thank you.
Mr. Vera?
Thank you. I heard a lot about data-driven and this is another project where in my mind, it's about compromise. We did a survey, over 70% of the respondents to the survey said, hey, we see the benefits of it, we like certain aspects of it, however, we would like to see something different. We'd like to see an improvement to it. I think it's the duties of council to listen to the public, to listen to the residents, and to come up with a compromise. I think what we get lost in is we let perfect be the enemy of good. We're not ripping up bike lanes. We didn't propose to do any of that. It passed council 3-2 to reconfigure. When it was initially installed, it was unfortunately installed through Transportation Department without really consulting with Public Works, where this time around we consulted with Public Works. We've done our due diligence. We're going to not only reconfigure it, but extend it to Fairfax instead of La Cienega, having it end at La Cienega. We're going to combine the bus bike lane. It would have been done already had it not been for the lawsuit. Hopefully the city will be victorious, and once that happens, the reconfiguration will start immediately to really reconfigure and compromise, listening to both sectors, not ripping out anything, just reconfiguring it. It'd be a bus bike lane that's going to be a cohesive sort of flow system through the entirety as opposed to the fragmented system that we have now. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone like to take 30 seconds for rebuttal or other commentary? Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. So just briefly, the lawsuit centered on removing the protected bike lane and adding a car lane back. And just for the space, we could have extended it, but I believe Councilmember Erickson at the time, and with the support of the majority, voted to not extend until the outcome of the lawsuit. So I don't think it's my understanding that the lawsuit doesn't center on extension, but that was a policy vote of the council to not extend it while the lawsuit litigated whether the car lane would be added back. Just to lift that up. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Renteria?
One of the big ways that I think the city can actually tackle our climate crisis is what the city can control without having to dictate what people need to do. The city is moving towards electrifying their entire bus fleet, and that's where I see a big benefit in our climate. And with the other fleets that the city owns, electrifying those, I think would be very beneficial. That way there are cars and buses on the road, but they're not adding to our climate crisis. And no, I'm done.
Anyone else?
Sure. I was at the city council meeting where the council wanted to extend the bus bike lane, and there were 2 people on the council who voted no to do that thing that they wanted to do. And there are people, unfortunately, sitting at this table who are part of the lawsuit, and I just want people to know that, because 70% of the people who wanted MOVE to be changed were not listened to. And I think community input is extremely important. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to address that. So there's no one sitting at this table who's a part of a lawsuit. There's 2 people who donated to a Save Move Culver City GoFundMe. And no one here has participated in a lawsuit. The thing that I think is really important to note here is that transportation from passenger vehicles in Culver City is over half of our greenhouse gas emissions, far higher than far higher than the state, which is 26%. In transportation policy, we like to call it ages 8 to 80. That's what you're trying to design around. So when you think about a bike bus lane, you want to make sure that whatever you're creating is acceptable for ages 8 to 80. And that's what this was all about. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So our last question is not going to offer a rebuttal. It's not really issue-oriented, but we will each get 2 minutes, and we're going to start with Ms. Barba with this last question. This last question asks more about you as a Culver City resident and someone who offers your service to the community. With 6 candidates running for 3 open seats on Culver City Council, half of you on November 6th will unfortunately wake up finding out that your election did not end as you hoped. If you end up not winning this election in November, in what ways will you contribute your service as a citizen of Culver City? Ms. Barba.
I think it's a great question, first of all. I think I will continue to contribute my services to Culver City in the ways I have in the past. I've been an appointee to the Finance Advisory Committee. I've been an appointee to the Planning Commission. I'm the founder of Culver City for More Homes. I've supported Protect Culver City Renters. I've done a lot of community work before ever being involved in this elected political race. I try to model what it's like to have urban infill. We just completed a 4-plex, and what used to be a 2-car garage, we built 2 apartments, and this is important, we rent them to people that live there year-round, not ADUs, because that's what what happens frequently with our ADU creation in Culver City. So I think we can be role models in our community. I think we can continue to uplift each other, and I would continue to do that. I would continue to organize at my child's school. I would continue to organize with people advocating for a climate resilient community. I would continue to organize for Culver City Pride Ride and Rally. I would continue to do all those amazing things that make the community wonderful. Where I want to raise my kid, where I want other people to have the opportunity to raise their kids, and where we benefit from each other's differences. Where it's not about, do you think exactly like me, but do we have the same vision? How can we create that together? In my day job, I am a professional climate practitioner. So that means I do market transformation programs to decarbonize our buildings. Transportation is 40% of emissions. The other part is our buildings. So I will continue to do great work. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Warren.
Thank you for the question, and just again, thanks for CCDU and all of you for spending part of your Tuesday afternoon or evening with all of us. Thank you for your time. It's been an incredible honor. When I ran for council in 2020, I remember people used to say, thank you so much for running. I didn't understand why people would thank me for running. Surprise, surprise. But it is an absolute honor and a privilege to have folks believe so deeply in me, to see young girls and to see groups, really celebrate my leadership and say that they feel represented by my voice and my space on the dais and the council. So no matter what, I'm incredibly grateful, Culver City, for these 4 years and for the privilege to uplift things and causes that I think should have a spot. One of them, Culver City Pride, which was the biggest year this year. I'm so proud to have been a part of that. So I'm very grateful. And 4 years ago, it didn't exist. There are other things I could list, but at the core, it's about ensuring that more than the status quo is possible. We follow the need wherever that takes. I've had no plans on running for office. A single mom from New Jersey who moved here because I fell in love with Culver City. I'm an attorney by training, work at Children's Defense Fund, California, and my day job supporting children up and down the state. Now I'm on MASA, and I've just had an incredible, life has kind of, as I followed the need and followed this equity work and trying to uplift the needs of young people and renters and folks of color, life has opened up, right? And that work will continue no matter what hat I'm wearing and what role that I'm in, but it is possible. Overnight committees have been, created. Overnight streets have been changed. Overnight, we've been able to welcome new neighbors, and hopefully we'll have more. Overnight, we've, converted motels to welcome more neighbors. I mean, it is absolutely possible if 5 human beings make it so. So thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for this time. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Wisniewski.
Hi, thank you. On that morning, I will do what I still do while I'm running, which is give back to this community that's given me so much. Since I've moved here 24 years ago and raised my 3 kids who went to Culver City schools from preschool to graduating high school, I have jumped right in. I volunteered at the schools from K to 12. I still volunteer for the school district because I love it, including volunteering in the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee for the last bond. When I saw a need, I co-founded and collaborated on 3 grassroots organizations, one involving improving our parks, one involved in connecting our neighbors, and one involved in connecting parents in all the schools. I'm really proud of that work because that is who we are in Culver City. We're neighbors who collaborate to make the world a better place for everyone. I will also continue to, I'm very proud of this, serve as on the heart of LA. I'm one of the co-founders of the first feminist democratic club in Los Angeles County because we noticed, back in 2016 that, boy, there's still a lot of sexism, misogyny, and work to be done to get women elected. So I will continue that work, uplifting women. 52% of the population in Culver City, by the way, are women. And I will continue to fight the battle, which you put more than one woman or more than on the seat of the council at the same time. And maybe we can have more because we're 52%. I believe that half is 3. That's my math today. In addition, I'll continue to work with my union. I'm a 4th generation union member. My daughter is 5th, and I'm sitting on 2 SAG-AFTRA committees, one involving uplifting women and the other one in the Government Accountability and Public Policy Committee. And I will be working to ensure that workers in the entertainment industry, our drivers of the creative economy, are rightfully paid. And that's it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mr. Fish.
Thank you, and thanks to Culver City Democrats United and to our moderator and to the Kirk Douglas, and thank you to all of you for spending your weeknight caring about your city enough to come out to this forum. It really means a lot to us that you would come and watch and want to learn more about us. So, for me, I'm a lifelong renter. My husband and I would really love to be able to afford a home one day and maybe start a family, but for people our age, that's becoming more and more of a remote possibility with every passing year. And so I'm really motivated, as someone that works for the County of Los Angeles and has devoted, my career to policy. I'm really motivated to help create more opportunities for people to be able to live here. We're seeing our Latino population decline. We're seeing seniors who have never been homeless before. They're the largest cohort of people falling into homelessness for the first time. And it's really distressing, right? We need to make sure that we have opportunities for everyone and that we can create an inclusive city together. And I'm really inspired to do that. We've made huge strides together over the past few years, right? We shut down a gun store together. We started the process of shutting down Eaglewood oil fields. We created the mobile crisis team. We created more transportation infrastructure. There's so much that we can do together, and I'm really optimistic about the future of Culver City. So I would invite you, I'm the only LGBT person running, I'm the only renter running. I would be, if elected, I think the youngest person on the council. Sorry, Yasmin. Sorry, Mayor. But yeah, so I would invite you to learn more and look me up and come up to me, ask me questions. I'm here to listen. I don't know everything. I just really want to serve the city and really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Vieira.
Thank you. What was the question again? We woke up and...
If you do not win the election, in what ways will you continue to serve the city?
Okay. If first I would cry. Maybe for a week or so, and then I would just get up and do what I do every day. I was raised in a family of service. I watched my parents give tirelessly of themselves to this community. That instilled that same sort of philosophy in me where this community gave me everything. Through my highlights and my lowlights, this community was there to back me up no matter what. I enjoy servicing the community. I do it every day in the store. If I would be unfortunate not to get reelected, I would go back to, like I said, servicing our community. I like helping. I think for me, the future of this community is our children and our schools. And any way that I can support our schools and our children, I do without question. I give to our scouts, I give to our schools. I do it because it makes me feel happy. I'm on the board of directors of Upper Bound House. I would give me a little more time to devote to my board duties on Upper Bound House. But you know, all in all, if I don't win, I'll go back to doing what I do on a daily basis, regardless, is being of service to the community any way I possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ventura.
As someone who's grown up here and my parents came here in the 60s from Mexico, this town has given me and my family everything that we've ever wanted and more. So giving back to the city is what I've done for a very long time. In high school, we had to volunteer to get service hours, and that's what triggered continuing to volunteer in our community. So I also have attended council meetings for over 20 years because that was also a forced assignment in high school that I didn't want to do, and then I ended up thinking they were very interesting, so I just kept going. And as someone who has woken up and not won, I will say I will continue doing what I have always done, which is volunteer, serve, and give back. I was appointed to the General Plan Advisory Committee. I'll continue going to council meetings. I'm currently the vice president of the Culver City Historical Society. I'm on the board of Culver City Sister City Committee. I've participated in leadership Culver City. I volunteer my time when I find some to Culver Diner. I have given many times and volunteered with Culver City Backpacks for Kids. It's easy to get involved in this city, and I'm currently appointed to the Equity and Human Relations Advisory Committee. I plan on continuing to participate because that's just what I do. Win or not, I'm here, too bad. So I give back to my city because I love this place and I want to take care of it, and it's important for me to take care of it, not just for me, but for all of you. I am here to take on all of your frustrations and issues with the city, and I'm here to listen to you, which is the biggest and I think most important thing. Listening to our residents and not just having an answer for absolutely everything, but working together to come up with collaborative solutions that fit the majority of our city. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's give all of our candidates City Democrats United for this inaugural in-person candidates forum.
Thanks everyone for watching.
Wonderful. Now we will also have refreshments afterward, which I think Eric will tell us about. But thank you so much for coming tonight. Most importantly, the election is November 5th. We talked a lot about the service that we can do as Culver City citizens. That's the first point of service that I want every single one of us to do. Is let's vote. Let's get out there and vote on November 5th. Thank you so much.
First, can we give, again, a big thank you to all of our candidates for such a I've got the chills. It was a real honor to have our club host this event. So thank you again. Thank you to the Kirk Douglas. Thank you to Dean, Eric. Thank you to everyone in our club who made this happen. Couple little things, I'm sorry to anyone I offend with this. Part of the reason I love our club is that we're not just single-minded on everything, and we're a wide array of beliefs and ideas within the Democratic Party, and we respect one another. That's got to be what defines us, is a mutual respect, love, and caring about one another. And I am absolutely not okay with jeering and with personal attacks. So please, going forward for all of our events, for all of our meetings, please refrain from any of that going forward. Positivity wins the day. We can disagree without being disagreeable. So please keep that in mind going forward. The other thing I want to do is apologize. I understand people came tonight and did not get in. While that's great that we had such a showing, I am really, really sorry to anyone watching this. And anyone who contacts me will get a call. I'm sorry to anyone who came and wanted to see this great event and was not able to get in. My sincere apologies to all of you. A couple housekeeping items. You should have gotten an email if you're in our club or on our email list. We're going to have an event via Zoom on Monday, July 22nd for the school board nominees. And in terms of the city council candidates, regarding our endorsement, you should receive, or I should say you will receive, an email tomorrow with the election buddy info. Please make sure to cast your votes for your endorsements within 48 hours. You'll have 48 hours. With that, I want to thank Ms. Darika Johnson, who did an amazing job. And if there is another national debate, maybe we can get you in there and clean some things up. No, thank you very much. It really was an amazing evening. I feel inspired, and with that, go blue. Let's keep the country blue. Turn every district blue. Let's get out and win this thing. All right? Thank you all.